So first and foremost, we probably have the most viewed, most talked about subject of the week in movies and entertainment will be the Doomsday casting, the presentation style in which Marvel chose to go with for that casting. Give me your thoughts. I know we're gonna be here for a while, but what were your thoughts on how they presented it, where we ended up, the names that they gave out initially? Where are you at with it?
So for y'all that don't know, like I've always worked in movies. Every freaking job I have has been in movies. My first job was in movie distribution. A lot of my jobs have been on like the finance side of movies. Of course, just stepping out of it and being like a fan, it was very frustrating. I did not like the presentation of it, but if I'm looking at it from a business point of view, I think it was genius. And it's so weird for me because as it's going down, I'm split up the middle. I'm just like, this is so stupid. But I'm
Yeah.
like, you got people sitting here for hours watching it. So it's kind
It
of
sure
smart
was.
too.
Sure was. For 5 hours. That's insane.
And I think I was watching Van Lathan
And
talk
Latham?
about it, and
Mhm,
he was like, it was kind of smart because even people who are not diehard Marvel fans are was calling him like his mom, like, hey, what's going on? So
mhm.
hey, it worked.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the style, I feel like it was very quintessential Marvel. The very drip style of revealing things that they've gone to, I think is it's a gift and a curse. Yeah, you do keep people on the edge of their seat, and they do sit around and wait for an announcement and wait for another connection to something you talked about 5 years ago. But at the same time, the only thing that wait does is increase the level of expectation for what comes next, or for you to deliver on whatever it is that you holding back. So when I see this list and it's devoid of Brie Larson, it's devoid of Elizabeth Olsen, it's devoid of Tom Holland, right? And it's not lost on me that they're doing their work in the trades as well to reinforce the fact that they wasn't on that list. If something is to happen, if something were to happen where this second round of reveals that's a little bit bigger than what they just gave us, the Anthony Mackies of the worlds and what have you, if something happens where that doesn't all completely flesh out and it's a little bit lesser than even what you thought it was going to be, now your follow up to a lackluster reveal that you made people sit around 5 hours for, you ain't deliver on the big stuff. You didn't deliver on the surprises. I listened to you about Elizabeth Olsen, right, and whether or not she's actually coming back. What if she say no? Like, what if she say no? Like, for real, she say no, and she don't come back. Well, then what we're left with is what you've already given us. You know, Torres and Sam and the Thunderbolts. It's just this. It's not enough.
Yeah, that's why I think whoever they leaked this to, the original guy who said, "Yo, what's coming is gonna be bigger than RDJ is Doom." I think that
That was
was,
Chris Gore that said that.
yeah, I think that was kind of, that was
That's
a
some
bad way to
hyperbole.
kind of leak
Yeah,
it
too much.
because
Yeah,
like you said, it would have been smart if they would have left the X-Men out of this and just because there's nobody else that can be kind of bigger than that cast. Who else? You know Monica's
yeah,
coming back. We know Maria Rambeau's coming back. What's the next reveal? You're surprising me that Doctor Strange is coming. I mean, I kind of
yeah.
expect that.
Right.
So it's like,
The only, I guess the only big reveal they could give us is if they're going to be putting Doom's his like villain versions of the Avengers in Doomsday.
yeah,
Like that would be a big reveal. You know, maybe we haven't seen Holly Berry Storm because she on Doom side. Maybe we haven't seen Chris Evans because obviously he's gonna be playing Hydra Cap.
could
You
be.
know,
Yeah.
that
But do
would
you
that would be
reveal
big.
that? Do you tell the public that?
I
That would be
wouldn't,
bad.
but they tell everybody everything that's going on in their movies before it comes out.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can't we got to go back to the Spider-Man No Way Home marketing. We got to go back to the Multiverse of Madness marketing, where I mean they were basically showing us Patrick Stewart and the Illuminati before we even got into the theater. So, do I want them to do it that way? Probably not. Will they? It's more likely than not. It's more likely than not. Um, I'm continue to talk about this anytime I get an opportunity with a Marvel project. It is also not lost on me that even though we know she's coming back, Monica continues to go unhighlighted. Um, it feels a little bit like with Shuri, it feels a little bit half done, half baked.
Right.
Adding her to the Avengers, there was really no call for her to be in the Avengers in Wakanda Forever. There was no
Right.
connection to her starting an Avengers team in any other films since we've seen her as Black Panther. So it feels very half baked. We obviously know where Anthony Mackie's Captain America is coming into this whole saga. So for Black characters, even outside of the greater MCU narrative, for Black characters, it continues to be more of the same in terms of where they're positioned, how strong of a push they're getting. Ironheart, don't know if she's going to show up in this entire saga. Her series comes out in June, and you would have thought
Right.
Marvel forgot about it.
Yeah.
You would have thought that they forgot about it. So, kind of talk to me about that. Where do you kind of see Black characters right now in,
I
in
mean,
Marvel
I've
pantheon?
always been on the campaign of ugh, something's looking a little something's looking a little shady with the black characters, but um it's so tough because it's just a bad timing. Like we are in a Trump time frame where you kind of it's like a pick a side type situation where it shouldn't be in art. And I talked about this when I did my centers video about how black people we'll go watch a white movie. We'll go watch a movie about the desperate housewives, even though we can't relate to it. I
Well,
can't
because we
relate.
have to, right? That's the
Yeah.
majority of media, and we got to. Yeah. Yep.
But the consistency I'm hearing from like a lot of white people is they don't watch like black media because they feel like they can't connect to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they're just looking at it from a financial side. Like, do we really invest in telling a fleshed out Monica Rambeau story, which that's where we thought we were going after WandaVision, and who's going to watch it? Even though 65% of our audience is white people, are they going to watch Ironheart? Are they going to
So
watch us flesh Monica out?
and I agree that that is the narrative, but to lean on that for me as these executives is a little bit of a cop out. Because here's the thing, especially if you work in comic books, if you part of Warner Brothers or Disney's umbrella and you're using this as an excuse, you're kind of doing it purposefully. Fantasy is a realm and it's a vehicle by which you can introduce very flat concepts to a wide variety of people. That is part of the reason why Harry Potter is so popular across the racial spectrum, is because when you flatten it out, this is a rags to riches hero versus Goliath type of story that everybody can connect to. You should be able to do that if you're repeating the formula for black characters the same way you are with everyone else. The problem ends up being is you cut black characters off at the knees. You don't give them a strong background. You don't give them surrounding characters to help push their stories forward. You don't give them plot lines that come off of popular characters to keep them going. I think Monica Rambeau was a perfect opportunity to do that with WandaVision, because to be honest with you, WandaVision had some of the best buzz of any Disney Plus show that they put out. Right? I mean, across the studios. We're not just talking
Right.
about MCU. We talking about Lucasfilm, any of them, and how the one character that ends up getting a spinoff off of that ends up being Catherine Hunn's Agatha is so frustrating to me, because there's so many different directions you could have gone. Like even while they were doing it, they were talking about, oh yeah, we want to see Darcy and Agent Wong together.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
are y'all playing with me right now? Are y'all telling jokes? They're like, y'all can't be serious. And the fact that it is a black woman makes it even more insulting, because again, she did have a show proposed that she was going to go forward with,
Right.
and kind of dismiss it as, oh well, it's a black TV show. We don't know how large the audience is going to be. You didn't know that for Kamala Khan. You didn't know that for
Right.
She-Hulk. You didn't know that for Agatha. Really, as
Mhm.
deep into the LGBT community that show was. You didn't know what kind of turnout that was going to provide for you, but you took it on faith and you put it out. So
Right.
it's hard for me to justify it for even people that I still root for in Marvel, because it's like you're showing a level of kind of like dissonance that I can't get around. If
Of
you're gonna do
course.
things, yeah, if you're gonna do things for these characters over here, how you gonna not do it for these characters over here and expect them to be successful? You know?
Yeah. But that's the name of the game we're in. That's what it
Mhm,
is.
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like if the leaks are true, they're gonna try to flesh Monica out as much as possible. In Doomsday, it's just a lot of heavy lifting, like I told Blue, that they have to do in a matter of 6 hours. Let's say both movies are three
Yeah,
hours
3
each.
hours
It's
long,
it's
yeah.
it's a lot, and it's gonna be real fast paced. But like you said, when WandaVision ended, it was talks of, hey, we're about to get a photon show. We're about to get an Agatha show. There was also supposed to be a show for Shang-Chi's sister. So it was a lot of talk
Mhm.
around that time. We were heavy in DEI. Biden was in office. And I think
Yeah, I don't
as
think
it
those are the same animal though. Shang-Chi's sister and Monica Rambeau, y'all not that's not the same. Like Monica Rambeau could end up actually leading her own series because that's
for
a
sure.
character that people know. I don't think anybody was checking for Shang-Chi's sister. You know what I'm saying? I can understand where you may come and look at that and be like, you know what? Maybe let's not spend 100 million on this.
For
Monica
sure.
Rambeau is a character you expect to be a linchpin in your future saga. So why not invest in that character? I think the same thing about Sam. How is it that we've been through this many years of Sam in the MCU and we don't know nothing about Sam? Right? The little
Yeah.
bit that we got from him in Winter Soldier, not Winter Soldier, excuse me, Falcon
Yeah,
and Winter
that
Soldier.
is Falcon
Yeah.
and the Winter Soldier.
They gone. I don't know where his sister at. I don't know where his
Right.
nephews went. I don't know. Dude, is his parents still alive? What's going on? You know,
Right.
he don't got no girlfriend. None of the mainstay Marvel characters can have love interest. You know, we can't get Monica with Adam
Blue Marvel.
Bashir. We
Yeah.
can't get Misty Knight and goddamn Sam Wilson together. We can't, obviously, they ain't putting T'Challa and Storm together. That's not even
Right.
in the cards. So it's like, where are we supposed to be hanging on to the, I guess, the faith in any of this from a black audience perspective?
I think when you pull the microscope out, the executives aren't looking or caring about that.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
That's when Kevin Feige hires your Russos, your James
Oof.
Gunns, your Kuglers. They hire these directors, showrunners, writers to craft those stories. It's up to those creatives to say, okay, we want to dig into this. So with Malcolm Spellman being involved with Captain America 4, he was a writer also on Falcon and the
No,
Winter
Falcon and Winter
Soldier.
Soldier. Yep.
That was up to him to flesh that out. That's not for Feige to really come down and say, make sure you include Sam's girlfriend. I think Feige is more so a subtractor. Oh, maybe we don't need this. Maybe we don't need that. It's up to those creatives to write those stories and tell those tales.
I am so glad you went there for another topic we got later on. But because I 100% agree with you. Like I think we like to believe that when you get inside of these machines, it's like, do what we say or else. It's more so of a, how far do you assimilate to the culture that's there? Right? They're not going to overtly come out and tell you that you can't do black things. They'll
Right.
just, they'll just kind of put you to the side, or they'll
Mhm.
mute you, or maybe not go to you as much. But where's the kind of breaking point? Are you going to allow that to change who you are as a creative and start writing narratives that don't, represent you as a person, which I think, there are individuals who go that route? Or do you end up getting booted out, sticking to your stuff because they don't want to hear it no more? You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
they feel like you're grandstanding. So it is a fine line you have to walk. I lean more towards the folks that come from our experience that have more so of a responsibility to
Right.
to make it what it is. I don't think
But
they can set all of us out.
I don't know if I think especially when you start dealing with minorities. So you're
Mhm,
dealing with Destin Daniel Cretton,
mhm.
um, who does Shang-Chi. You're dealing with who was the director for the Marvels? I'm going blank. Nia DaCosta. When you start dealing
Yeah,
with like
yeah,
a lot of
yep.
the minorities and they get to kind of take their stories, like you said, it should be a responsibility, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about it like that. I think Nia DaCosta really wanted to tell a completely different story, and that's where the subtraction comes in at, where
Uh-huh.
she had a story built, and no,
That
we need to
included
keep
the
this out.
X-Men, right? They that she
I
wanted to
didn't hear
include
that.
the X-Men more, wasn't it?
I didn't hear that, but I
Okay.
do remember them saying, like, and I don't know how true this is, that there was a little friction because she was trying to tell a more Monica centric story,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yep.
Carol was like, "Whoa, what's
Well,
going on
they've
here?"
worked together before. They worked together on Candyman,
Right.
DaCosta
Mhm.
and Tiana
Mhm.
Ferris. So I could definitely see them vibing together.
Yep.
And then especially when you kind of give her the roadmap of, all right, well, it's technically Captain Marvel too, but we adding Kamala Khan and we
Mhm.
adding Monica Rambeau. Well, at some point, somebody gonna be left out. Now,
Yep.
to me, just in the interest of fairness, if it's Captain Marvel too, that's kind of a default of whose film it is. I think that's why they
Right.
went so far as to rename it The Marvels to kind of,
Mhm.
even it out for everybody. But in reality, it was supposed to be a sequel. So then why do we have to jam everybody in together into this one movie to try to get their follow up as opposed to everybody maybe branching out in their own direction? That kind of boils down to a money thing. But I
But if you
do.
look at it historically, that's what they done.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Look at I mean, unfortunately, Wakanda Forever was more so an ensemble telling. Captain America
Hmm.
3 was an ensemble
Ensemble.
telling.
Yep.
Thor Ragnarok. So it's like they have a history of doing this. And like you said, it could be because this is our way to get these characters in and to kind of introduce them. But they have a history of doing that.
Yeah, I mean so that kind of leads me into my next point about the castings, right? We talked a little bit about Doomsday, and whether or not it's really going to do what Marvel needs it to do. The problem I'm having kind of getting to that point of saying yes, it's going to be a hit is I look at the landscape that we got right now, where we are reputation rise, what the audience is showing you in terms of viewership, not just on the big screen, but in television. What I'm seeing is that the audience has gotten to a point where they will shut their back on a Marvel project and not just kind of knee jerk jump onto it and watch it because Marvel posted it, right? Daredevil Born Again is a good example of kind of a microcosm of the Marvel brand right now. Daredevil Born Again has been one of the most anticipated series in Marvel since Disney Plus got going, really. It was extremely popular on Netflix. They were constantly boasting about streaming numbers when it was on Netflix, right? They went back and reworked this thing to look exactly to be a one-on-one 3 years after the or set it was like was it 3 or 4 years, something like that, after
Right.
the Netflix series. So heavily invested, a lot of time inputted, even went back and completely reworked the series, stripped it down, right? Did something completely different. The audience is viewing Daredevil currently less than they viewed the Acolyte. That is a brand bruise. That's a reputation bruise. That's people aren't watching your stuff because of the last two or three things that they saw that they didn't like. So now, and I understand Robert Downey Jr. is Doom. I understand that they're potentially bringing back all of the OG Avengers as villains. That is another draw. I understand that the sheer size of bringing all these characters together invites people to show up. What I'm not drawing the connection on is how the weakness of some of the characters that they plan to present and the track record that they will have going into Doomsday, right? I can't say for sure that Thunderbolts is going to be a hit. I don't even really know what to call a success for Fantastic Four because none of those movies have ever been successful.
Right.
So it's hard for me to get my mind around. They're going to go from bad reputation bruise down in the dumps, playing in the mud to darling of Hollywood within, a few films. I can't get there completely until I see some momentum.
I guess it depends on what your definition of success is, because we've seen it. Like I commented before, we've seen Marvel be in the dumps, and then you have a um Deadpool and Wolverine that does a billion. You have a
Mhm.
multiverse of madness that inches towards a
850.
billion.
Yeah.
So it depends on what your definition of success is. I think fiscally, is Doomsday going to be successful? That's tough because the way this cast is looking, what's the budget? If we had
We,
400, uh,
I wasn't even talking about the bottom line in terms of turning a profit. I was just in terms of repairing the reputation of Marvel. But if we're talking money, yeah, no. They're going to be up in Infinity War Endgame level type
okay,
of budget. They have to be because they have the same amount of actors.
okay,
Um, it's especially if you talking about paying Robert Downey Jr. 50 million a piece,
right.
50 ball a piece. That's insane. I'm in that room like, hold on, you paid him how much?
50.
Yeah, let me get. I'll take 29.5, dog. I'll take 29.5. Let me get 29.5. And somebody gonna break through there because you can't tell everybody no.
Yeah.
They tell everybody no now. So
Hmm.
I do think they're gonna have to make a shit ton of money, like Avatar money.
Yeah. Me and my wife was talking about this yesterday because I was telling her I was getting on stream with you, and I was like, me and my wife have been together probably like 12, 13, 14 years now. I don't
Wow.
know. I can't even remember.
Congratulations. Yeah.
But we were just talking about how this is we've really been in a relationship with Marvel for the past almost same amount of time, 10, 11, 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like people like us who's been in it since the beginning, we're kind of wanting to get that new relationship fuzzies again. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I feel like a lot of people are looking for that thing to kind of make us go, yes, wow, we're back. It's never going to get back to that. So now we have to kind of look at our relationship with Marvel a little bit different. So when you say, is it going to create this newfound buzz? I don't think so, because a lot of us have just been into it for too long and we're expecting it to make us feel like it felt at the beginning, which is revisionist history. A lot of stuff in phase 1 and phase 2 I did not like, but I don't, it's just we have to look at what the new norm is. It's not going to
Mhm.
ever feel like it once felt. It's just a new norm.
I mean, I guess I can get that. I get that from a relationship standpoint for sure. For movies, though, especially with franchises, they the ones we
What
love the
Yeah,
most.
what's the success? Like, who is the counterpart that's done it for this long and still gives you that new
Oh no,
relationship
no, no, no.
feeling? There's not one.
Marvel is definitely breaking new grounds in terms of how long they've been going. I guess where I'm kind of struggling to say that it'll never be the same is we don't know until they go back to doing what they were doing. They've been on a different track for about the last 3 or 4 years that is kind of averted from your classic Marvel arc. Like, and you mentioned phase one of Marvel. I think phase one of the MCU is kind of hit or miss for some people because it wasn't about big box office hits. It wasn't about, crashing the movie market with blockbuster after blockbuster. It was about establishing an arc. They were still storytelling at that point. So if we ever got back to that point where for the next 5, 6, 7 years, we're on a defined arc trying to get to that point, and we're not just building it as we go, which is the modern day Marvel narrative, I think you'd have at least a better data point to say, okay, how far back to that original can we get? It's hard to say when you're not even trying to recreate the process.
So do you think, so is your argument more so like, because they don't have like this fully connective through line that's just kind of taking us somewhere, that's the fault? Because reality, phase 1, they wasn't telling a connective story. Phase
Oh, they
1 to me
absolutely
looks
were.
like phase 4. It looks the same to
Mm-mm,
me.
mm-mm.
It looks exactly the same.
First
The
of all, there
only
wasn't nearly as much content in phase
Well,
one,
okay,
right?
take that out. Yeah,
You had
right.
you had four movies,
Mhm.
and at each one of those movies outside of no Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and well, outside of Thor. I don't think Thor had one. Well, no, Thor led us directly into Avengers. So yeah, all four of those movies had a MCU tie to
That's what I'm
advance the
saying. So is
narrative
is the
forward.
problem the tie, that
Oh
there's
yeah,
not
I
like a
think so. I
tie?
think that's part of the problem. All of these projects have been siloed off from each other. And all of these things are just kind of happening without them running into each other. First of all these characters in New York. Okay? Everybody's in New
Mhm.
York. The fact that all this shit is happening in New York doesn't, no one ever pops up to do anything or say, oh, hey, I'm here. How can I help? Or at least, or reference it, right? Like, we're just now getting back to the point of the MCU where they are referencing things that have happened in phases past. So I think letting everybody be so isolated and personalizing the projects to the degree that they have has been part of the detriment to the universe overall, because that's not why people got in. People didn't get into Marvel to find their Marvel. You know what I'm saying? People
Right.
didn't get into the MCU to find, an A24 version of Marvel. That's not what they were looking for. And once they got away from a narrative, a through line, that kind of hurt the storytelling, at least in my
So
opinion.
it's the through line. It's not necessarily the let's take the sheer amount of content out. It's more so like, and it's because we've been in it. We feel like there's not a connective tissue, so we're in this kind of blind. We don't know where we're going. I would argue back then, unless you read comic books, nobody knew where this shit was going. Marvel didn't even know where it was going. They kind of was just
But
like,
again, I don't want to boil it all down to just the extra credit, the after credit scenes.
right,
But that those little bit 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there to take you to the next project is what sparked intrigue for
right,
the next for that
mm-hmm,
next coming, right? And so without that, you're just kind of left to wander. Even let's say if you did like Kamala Khan, let's see if you liked Miss Marvel, right? And
mm-hmm,
you got that little bit, that little at the
right,
end,
right,
right?
right, right,
Knowing that she's gonna be an X-Men. If you're a Kamala Khan fan, you were able to hold on to that for as long as you can, probably until she show up in Doomsday, right? With,
mm-hmm,
with with Dupe and the rest of the Young Avengers, because they gave you that slight little threat.
right,
They gave you that slight little bit. It doesn't necessarily have to be intricate, or you have to write
mm-hmm,
it into the plot of the movie. You don't have to go that far, but even just that little bit that they did give you to keep everything one track helped a lot.
right, right, right. Well, then on that part, I can partially agree, but to me, phase one and phase four looks the same as far as we're putting out something to introduce you guys to new characters because nobody knew who the fucking Guardians was. Nobody knew who comic book people knew who Iron Man was, but my mom didn't know who the hell Iron
Yeah,
Man
no,
was.
Iron Man
So
wasn't
she's
that popular until
so
Robert
we're
Downey
going to
played it.
watch these movies because hey, it's a new superhero movie out. Let's go check it out. It wasn't
Mhm.
like, oh, we're going to watch this because the end is going to be Avengers in 3 or 4 movies. I think people just went to watch it. Hey, it's a new movie. And
But see
then
now,
after then we realized, oh, okay, this stuff is starting to connect. This stuff is
trying to pick
starting to
up.